Welcome to our Ag Progress Days kitchen today. So before we start any cooking in the kitchen, we need to start by washing our hands for at least 20 seconds. So I'm going to do a quick rinse of my hands to get them wet and then rub together with the soap, being sure that I get between all of my fingers and some areas that can be easily missed, such as the back of your hands, the area around your thumbs, up to your wrist and on your palms. Getting that soap all over. And this is important because this is how we prevent germs from spreading throughout the cooking process, cross-contamination. And we're not only washing our hands at the beginning of the cooking process, but at steps in between, such as when we switch tasks or we finish handling raw meat. But today, our recipe is only going to be using fresh vegetables. This recipe is a great way to incorporate protein-rich chickpeas into your diet. If you're looking to follow more of a plant-based style diet, adding a recipe like this into your day can be a great way to do that. I'm going to be putting my gloves on today since we are serving food to the public. This recipe is a delicious salad that you can do throughout the summertime. I don't know about you, but this is a time of the year where I don't want to turn my oven on if I don't have to, right? Especially when you don't have any air conditioning. So this can be a great way to add those fresh vegetables coming from the garden, and as well as a very affordable protein choice for a meal. So we're going to start by chopping together all of our vegetables. But what I want to show you first is actually the garbanzo beans. You might know them as chickpeas. And this recipe does call for no salt added beans, chickpeas. At my grocery store, I was unable to find them, but I have a hack for you. What we're looking to do is to lower the sodium in this recipe. So even when you're not able to get no sodium added chickpeas, what you can do is drain your garbanzo beans and then rinse them under water. And what this does is it actually eliminates about 30% of the sodium content in that canned good. And it's important to lower the amount of sodium in your diet because that is one contributor to increasing the risk to heart disease and having high blood pressure. So we really want to try and use as little sodium in our diet as possible. So I think those chickpeas are pretty rinsed out well. So what we're going to do is turn over to our bowl here with all of our salad ingredients. I already prepped today by getting our red pepper started and chopped up. And what I'm going to do is first cut it into slices. I really like to have a finely chopped vegetable in my salads. And the reason behind that is because raw vegetables can be a little tough to digest in your gut. There's the fiber is still well intact, so it's more likely for you to develop gas or, digestive issues is probably a better way to say that. But when you finally chop up your vegetables, it allows your stomach to more easily digest those vegetables in their raw state. When you cook vegetables, that can help to break down the barriers in that vegetable, kind of break down those fibers, and that's why you might be able to tolerate a cooked vegetable more than a raw vegetable. And so in salads, again, I like to try to chop them as finely as possible. With my cucumber here, what I did is I chopped off the edges, and I'm going to cut the cucumber directly in half. I want to have a flat surface of the cucumber laying on the cutting board. This just makes it easier to manage and work with, And in order to get those finely chopped pieces of cucumber like I was talking about, I'm going to thinly slice them along the length of the cucumber. And then that'll allow me to dice them in a very fine manner. This is a meal, or an addition to a meal, that can take less than 30 minutes, which I know is a really important part of cooking when you're trying to get everyone fed at night while trying to get their homework done, especially if you have children like me. And I really want those evening times to be as easy as possible, right? Because my 3-year-old is tough enough. So I don't need my recipes to be tough as well. Not like he's eating these vegetables that I'm preparing for you today, but I guess that is a typical scenario for a 3-year-old, I guess you could say. So I'm going to continue to chop up these cucumbers into fine pieces. I just love cucumbers in a salad because they have such a mild flavor to them. They add a little crunch to it, and it's just a nice addition to everything. So what we're also going to put in here is half of a red onion. I'm going to slice this as thinly as possible. So what I'm going to do is just to get these cuts up together as close as I can. You may have a device at home like a mandolin that allows you to get very thin slices, or if you're like me, you like to have the physical control of a knife to help you out with that. And these don't have to be slices if you don't want them to be. You can also dice these into thin pieces if you'd like to. I think the red onion is such a great addition to a salad when it's raw because it adds a nice flavor to it all. So I'm just going to kind of mix these all up, break them apart into the bowl with all my other vegetables. Cut up a few of these pieces to be a little bit smaller. Get that finished in there. All right, so what I can also do is add my drained and rinsed chickpeas to the bowl. And I can go ahead and mix this all up. That is looking so colorful already. Can you see all those great colors in here? And it's gonna get even better. So part of what makes this Mediterranean one piece are those chickpeas. Chickpeas are originally from the Middle East. That's where they grow very well. But I'm also adding some olives to this recipe, specifically Kalamata olives, which also originate from the Mediterranean region. So this recipe calls for 1/3 cup of my Kalamata olives. Add those to the bowl. And then what we're also using today is for the feta cheese. I was able to, in order to lower the fat content of this recipe, specifically the saturated fat content. The saturated fat in our diet is what can really increase our risk of heart disease by raising our cholesterol levels. So I want to try and make as many substitutions as possible. With this fat-free feta cheese, there's no additives in here. It's using a skim or a fat-free cow's milk in order to make the feta cheese. So this recipe calls for about 1/2 cup. If you are a feta cheese lover like me, you might be adding a little bit more, so maybe I'll just toss a little bit more in there. Maybe just a little bit more. That's always my favorite part, is the cheese, right? So we'll get that all mixed together again. I want to do this step first before my dressing, because mixing all these ingredients together allows them to kind of marinate more. So you can also imagine that this salad will be extra delicious a few hours from now, right? Because the vegetables will be allowed to coat in the dressing that we're about to make. Making your own dressing at home is very easy. Oops, I need that cutting board. Not quite yet. So I brought a fresh lemon with me today, and in order to get the most juice out of that lemon as possible, maybe we'll get more people to come over with all this rain, right? Looks really good out there. I'll show you a perfect example of when you need to wash your hands. Is what I'm doing right now is that this headset is falling off my ears. So all that touching I did with my gloves, they're coming off. If I was at home, it'd be a little different, right? But I'm making food for all you people, so we're gonna keep this as clean as possible. You never know what's going to happen at Ag Progress Days. I think it rained last year too, you remember? I might have to talk a little louder to bring everybody over. So we're about to make the dressing. And what I was about to get into is talking about how to make this lemon as juicy as possible. Excuse me while I get these gloves on. I've made dressing at home, different varieties. You can stick with a vinaigrette where the base is with an oil and a vinegar. You can add lemon juice and garlic. If you want to add some creaminess to your homemade dressings, any ideas of what you can add to your dressing to make it creamy? Avocado can make it creamy. I was thinking of more of a higher fat recipe addition. So thank you for the avocado. That was a very healthy suggestion. Mine was mayonnaise. So that's how I make it nice and creamy, but I think I like yours a little bit better. I'm gonna roll this lemon around a little bit to get the juices flowing, okay, before I cut it in half. All right, I think it should be ready to go now. So we're going to cut that in half. Get my lemon juicer. Get that in my bowl here so I can catch any seeds, but you know what? I think they're all caught in here. Now, depending on the size of your lemon or the juiciness of it, it will give you more or less than about 2 to 3 tablespoons for each lemon. My recipe today only calls for about 1 tablespoon. So I just wanted to see how much juice this lemon would give me. And I'm gonna add a little bit more in there because I love lemon juice in my recipe. So the next step in our recipe is to add a 1/4 cup of extra virgin olive oil. Extra virgin olive oil is a great addition to your salad dressing because this type of olive oil is really best eaten in the form of a dressing where it's raw. And what I mean by that is it doesn't go through the cooking process like you would saute on a pan. Olive oil burns at a very low temperature at about 180 degrees. So when you cook it, it can burn and also deplete some of those good nutrients that are found in the recipe. So the next ingredient is 2 tablespoons of white wine vinegar. And we're also going to use some fresh parsley I have mine sitting over here on a paper towel, ready to be dried, or all dried. So we're gonna bring it over here, start chopping it up. And you really don't have to worry about the stems with parsley because they all have extra flavor that you can use. So I'm just going to chop that up here until it gets to about the size that I want it to be. We're going to do about a tablespoon of fresh parsley in here. An easy way to make your dressing is to also put it all in a jar, put the lid on it, and then just shake it up. My next ingredient is my red pepper flakes, which are back here. This adds a little bit of a kick, but don't worry, we're only doing a tiny bit, just a 1/4 teaspoon of those red pepper flakes to add a little bit of heat to this, which does complement the rest of the recipe very well. Look how gorgeous that is coming together. You have the pieces of the parsley in there with the green, the red pepper flakes, the yellow color from the lemon juice. I'm just really admiring my work up here, to be honest. This looks beautiful. So we have our fresh dressing ready to be poured on top of our salad here. Pour that all on top. Wow, that looks delicious. I think I'm really hungry too, because I've been smelling all that food that surrounds our little barn here. So this dressing, I just want to toss it around in the bowl to evenly coat it together. And like I said earlier, if you are needing to bring a dish to an event, this could be a great recipe to make ahead of time. Let it sit in your fridge for a couple hours. It allows those flavors to really marinate together. So we'll be passing out samplings of this beautiful salad here for you to test out. Look how gorgeous that is. Ready to eat. Thank you everybody for coming.